The rally in Latrobe, Pennsylvania was supposed to be about jobs, about the economy, about America. Instead, it became about Arnold Palmer's anatomy. Former President Donald Trump, in a rambling speech, chose to fixate on the late golfer's physique. He veered off script, abandoning any pretense of a prepared speech. The crowd, a sea of red hats and expectant faces, shifted uncomfortably. Some laughed nervously, others stared in stunned silence. This wasn't the tribute to a local hero they'd anticipated. This wasn't about policy, about the future of America. This was vintage Trump crude, inappropriate, and deeply disrespectful. Social media erupted. The hashtag #TrumpDisgracesPalmer trended nationwide. Pundits and politicians alike condemned Trump's words. This wasn't just a gaffe, they argued. This was a glimpse into the mind of a man utterly lacking in decorum and empathy. This wasn't about golf. It was never about golf. It was about Trump making the story about himself, even at the expense of a deceased legend. Latrobe, Pennsylvania, a town synonymous with steel, with American grit, with a bygone era of industrial dominance. It was the perfect backdrop for Trump's message, a message steeped in nostalgia and the promise of a return to greatness. Trump, with his characteristic hyperbole, painted himself as the savior of the American worker. He touted tariffs imposed on Chinese steel, taking credit for every job allegedly saved in the region. The crowd roared their approval. He tapped into their anxieties, their fears of being left behind in a rapidly changing world. He promised them a return to a simpler time, a time when America was unquestionably the world's economic powerhouse. The message resonated. It didn't matter that economists disputed his claims. It didn't matter that the tariffs had also led to job losses in other sectors. What mattered was the promise, the hope that he offered. The condemnation was swift and unrelenting. From newsrooms to social media feeds, outrage poured in. Trump's comments about Arnold Palmer were deemed disgusting, reprehensible, and beneath the office he once held. Political opponents seized the opportunity to highlight Trump's unfitness for office. Senator Kamala Harris, in a scathing statement, accused Trump of trafficking in vulgarity and disrespect. She called his behavior a stain on our national discourse. Commentators across the political spectrum were united in their disgust. Conservative columnist David Brooks called Trump's words a new low, even for him. Liberal commentator Ezra Klein wrote that Trump had once again revealed his utter lack of decency. The message was clear. Trump had crossed a line, but would it matter? Smoke and mirrors, distracting from real issues. While the nation reeled from Trump's latest outrage, a crucial question remained unanswered. What was he trying to distract us from? Was it the ongoing investigation into his business dealings? Was it the growing number of his former associates facing indictment? Or was it simply his administration's utter lack of progress on any of the pressing issues facing the country? Trump, a master of manipulation, understands the power of distraction. By dominating the news cycle with his outrageous behavior, he effectively silences any discussion of his administration's failures. He thrives on chaos, on keeping his opponents constantly on the defensive. It's a strategy that has served him well in the past. But will it continue to work? Voices from the crowd steelworkers share their stories. Amidst the controversy, it was easy to forget that there were real people in that crowd in Latrobe, people whose lives had been directly impacted by the decline of the steel industry, people who saw Trump as a beacon of hope, a fighter for their forgotten way of life. One by one, steelworkers took the stage, sharing their stories of hardship and resilience. They spoke of factories shuttered, of jobs lost, of families struggling to make ends meet. Their voices cracked with emotion as they described the toll that economic hardship had taken on their community. But then, a glimmer of hope. They spoke of Trump's tariffs, of how they had breathed new life into the industry. They spoke of increased overtime pay, of being able to provide for their families once again. Their stories, raw and heartfelt, served as a stark reminder that for some, Trump's message resonated deeply. They didn't care about his crude remarks or his controversial behavior. They cared about putting food on the table, about keeping a roof over their heads. A divided nation, Trump's enduring appeal. The rally in Latrobe was a microcosm of a nation deeply divided. On one side, those appalled by Trump's behavior, his utter lack of respect for basic decency. On the other side, those who saw him as a flawed but necessary disruptor, a fighter for the forgotten man. The question now is whether Trump's brand of divisive politics will continue to hold sway. Will his supporters remain loyal in the face of mounting evidence of his incompetence and corruption? Or will the rest of the country finally say enough is enough? One thing is certain: Trump will continue to push the boundaries, to test the limits of what he can get away with. The future of American democracy may very well depend on how we respond. The battle lines have been drawn. The fight for the soul of America continues.